Hello, to anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Thomas Stokman, and clearly I'm a senior at St Agnes, but next year I will be attending Benedictine College to, as of now, study mechanical engineering, but that's subject to change, obviously. So I've been asked to share some meaningful experiences of high school and stuff I've learned and even words of advice, if you really want to listen to the words of advice from an 18-year-old. It's up to you. So I came to St. Agnes as a pretty shy and insecure kid with no idea of who I was, who I wanted to be. I hadn't really matured much in middle school, so I came to St. Agnes with not many great life skills or social skills, not many good habits either. So coming to St. Agnes, I really wanted to fit in, and I really wanted to have as many friends as possible. I basically thought I couldn't be happy unless I'm popular and I'm cool. So not being confident in who I was and not really knowing who I was led me to basically just trying to change who I was in order to be liked and just acting in a certain way so that I would be accepted or seen as cool. And it must have been pretty obvious that I was faking, or I must have been really bad at faking it, which is probably true, because I really struggled with making any decent friendships my freshman year. And so by the winter of freshman year, I was pretty much just kind of fed up with St. Agnes, and I felt like it wasn't the place for me, and I was like, I cannot spend another 3 years here, or else I'll die. And so I applied to another school. I wanted to transfer out of St. Agnes the next fall. So I basically gave up merely because I was struggling to find friends, and I, wasn't cool by St. Agnes standards. So I was actually fully committed to transferring. I made a non-refundable deposit to the school I was going to. And, as spring came, things started to change for me. Probably the weather helped me feel a little less crappy. But I started to have a new hope for St. Agnes, and a little more interest in it, and I kind of had an inkling that maybe I should give it another chance. So this didn't really start until track. Sadly, I didn't do the musical, but I know if I had, I definitely would have for sure been like, okay, I'm staying here. But track was a really good experience for me. I felt like somewhat more accepted. I started to make some friendships where I didn't feel like I had to be cool all the time to be friends with them. But I can clearly remember the moment where I kind of decided that I was not going to transfer. I was going to come back to St. Agnes. And it was at the spring concert for the choir under Mrs. May, standing on the stage under the bright lights. I forget which song we were singing, but I think it was one of the graduations we sing that just has a lot of emotion attached to it. And I remember standing there on the stage just feeling like I couldn't leave this place, that St. Agnes maybe could be my home someday, and that I really needed to give this place another chance. I'm sure the beauty of the music directed by Mrs. May helped me choose to come back, so thank you, Mrs. May. But I am so grateful that I chose to stay at St. Agnes, because through many trials, mistakes, detentions, musical rehearsals, sports practices, lectures from teachers, and many struggles, St. Agnes finally began to feel like home for me. So this kind of crappy experience of freshman year taught me one very important thing, which I still struggle to follow to this day. Always be yourself. Don't act in a certain way to get people's approval. It rarely ever works. As time went on at St. Agnes, I began to act more and more as myself. And it didn't make me popular, which is what my freshman self thought was the main goal of high school. But it did show me who my real friends were, and it formed stronger, more real relationships with the people around me. Sorry, my dog started barking. And as I started to mature a tiny, tiny bit, I started to realize that teachers are people too, and that they aren't evil, and that they actually care about you, and that you can actually be friends with them, and that you have a lot to learn from them besides facts. So if I could name the most impactful thing of my experience at St. Agnes, I would definitely say the relationships with my teachers and the inspiration I've received from their lives. I'm so grateful for the inspiration and support of the teachers at St. Agnes High School. We are all so truly blessed to have all of you as our teachers. Sadly, it took me a long time throughout many years of schooling to realize that teachers truly care about us students and that they wanted the best for me. Realizing that has helped me in so many ways. I have always been very insecure about myself, but the support and validation of my teachers in many different ways has just helped me been able to feel better about myself and act more in accordance with who I am, and really just come closer to the potential that I'm made for, that God made me for. So I realized that this insecurity about myself made me miss out on a lot in high school, because I was always comparing myself to others and staying in the shadows because I was so insecure about myself. I would say that this obsession with comparing myself to others has probably been the biggest mistake of my life. I still struggle with it, but I've gotten a lot better, but it definitely just kept me from being anywhere close to the person God made me to be. So the Canadian psychology professor Jordan Peterson wrote this book called The 12 Rules of Life, and in one of them, one of the most impactful rules in that book for me is this. So basically he says, only compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who others are today. So attempting to follow this rule in my life has helped me to emerge from the shadows and come closer to who God made me to be. Another thing that kept me from my full potential was putting people in boxes and allowing my first impressions of them to affect how I acted towards them. I think it's so sad that kids of all ages will shun others just because they may be different from them or didn't make the best first impression or bothered them in some small way. I really wish I'd tried to talk to everyone in my grade and not judged other people at all, but sadly I allowed my preconceptions of others to keep me from loving everyone equally. We all know that we are called to love our neighbor as ourselves. It's pretty clear that Jesus says that in the Bible. But so many of us in high school tend to be so judgmental and hateful towards others. I wish I could start over in high school and this time follow the golden rule with my whole heart. Don't put people in boxes because of your preconceptions of others. Always put yourself in another's shoes before you even think of judging them. Treat all the people around you with equal respect. I've learned that these things are of the utmost importance in life, and that failing to love others is a great evil. I think that what I've learned in high school about how to live life will help me much more than all the knowledge I've gained. The examples of my teachers and fellow classmates on how to live life has taught me more than any textbook or test ever will. Now, moving on to the present stage of my life, the global pandemic. So, this global crisis caused by COVID-19 has really taught me that I literally cannot take, or we can literally not take anything for granted. Not even the most simple things that you totally assumed were guaranteed in life, like high school, or hanging out with your friends, or graduation, or the musical, and hopefully not college. So many of us thought that we would live normal lives like the people that had come before us for the past like 30, 40 years. Lives like our parents did, like the kids who graduated last year, like the kids who graduated 20 years ago. And this has shown us that you can't really make any assumptions about what your life will look like. This has taught me that we really must be prepared for anything in life. That we can't just assume to live peaceful, happy, little American lives in little boxes, but that we must be prepared for anything. So, thank you for watching this video. I just want to thank Miss Larson for asking me to share my senior reflection. I want to thank all of my teachers for everything they've done for me.